What is up, you guys, and welcome to the Chosen League podcast, where fire sports content is the name of the game. I'm your host, Devin. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload an episode. Breaking news: the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers have agreed to a blockbuster trade involving Brown and Paul George. The Sixers are acquiring Brown, while the Celtics are getting George and some draft compensation. We knew this trade was coming. This was well needed for both teams. It's a fresh start for both, not only for players like Paul George and Jaylen Brown, especially Jaylen Brown. Um, but I'm gonna break down why this trade happened. Between this, why for the Celtics, why for the Sixers. So we're gonna start off with the Sixers. Three key points I want to make here about this trade. So the first one: why did the Sixers trade for Jaylen Brown? Elite wing and a two-way upgrade, a better upgrade than Paul George, I might add. Averaging 28.7 points per game, 6.9 rebounds per game, and 5.1 assists per game. You're talking about Jaylen Brown, 6 conference finals and made the playoff 10 straight years, 10 times. But for the Sixers, Brown is the missing piece that they've been needing the whole time. They lacked this for years and years to come. But now when you get Jaylen Brown, high usage, high efficiency scorer, and a guy who can close out games on defense. So when you got a guy like that, a lot of great things can happen. The second most important thing is the roster fit. The roster fit with Embiid and Maxey. So with Maxey and Jaylen Brown, explosive in the transition, can score off the dribble, thrive in mid range and pull up situations. Honestly, this is a better duo. Maxey and Brown is a better duo. Could potentially be a better duo. I mean, it's better than Paul George and Tobias Harris. So the last two past duos, but now you got a Jaylen Brown, a champion who can help on defense. It's a win. It's a win for the Sixers. And then also with Embiid. We know Embiid is more of like a guy who likes to score offensively. So for Embiid, both guys can play off the ball, which gives Embiid a chance to rest on defense. So it's kind of like he can Jaylen Brown with his defensive versatility. It it hides that flaw of Embiid's defensive play. So that's how that's what's basically going to help out for the Sixers. And then the last thing I want to cover is for the Sixers is solving their veteran star problem. We understand at the time the Sixers were looking for a veteran who didn't need to be a number one option. Paul George was that guy. They needed a veteran guard who can lead in crunch times, a proven veteran star who can lead in crunch time, who didn't need to be the number one. But Paul George was supposed to be that guy. He was that guy in his early years of his career, but due to him being injury prone, he ain't been the same. So now the Sixers are betting and hoping that Jaylen Brown's next 5 to 7 years that he's better than Paul George. We understand Paul George is a big name, playoff PG, you know. So in conclusion to that, the Sixers have a better chance of being great in the East if Embiid is healthy. Moving on to the Celtics. The three main points for the Celtics. Number one, they get Paul George. In return, they get Paul George and they get draft compensation. So now you got a veteran player who has a high IQ in scoring and also can share the load with Jayson Tatum. Also, this gives Jayson Tatum an opportunity to be the number one guy since he doesn't have Jaylen Brown anymore. The Celtics do have an advantage of using these draft picks to their advantage if they feel like, okay, maybe we want to get another star. And then in conclusion to that, this is just Brad Stevens saying we're not done, we're just reshaping. So they chose even though they know they like we really favor Jayson Tatum over Jaylen Brown, even though he's an MVP, Finals MVP, I might add. I Let me know in the comment section what MVP you know gets traded. I mean, let's be for real, but we know what's up. The second thing here is the test. This is a test for Jayson Tatum on his offensive game because now with Jaylen Brown out of the picture, Jayson Tatum is now the number one option. Tatum's usage and scoring responsibilities will increase, and he will also be challenged. It will challenge him to be more efficient in creating for others. Jaylen Brown is very good at that. Jaylen Brown didn't need the ball in his hands. But now, if you really look at it in the end, if Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum succeeds in this, Celtics are still a championship team. But if it doesn't work in their favor, then the Celtics have to look in the mirror. They have to reflect. They have to figure out what went wrong. So in that case, Jayson Tatum, they give you the keys to the kingdom, and you are now the man. Last, so the third thing I want to cover is the narrative and also the relationship. The relationship, we already know the relationship was going. Everybody was going their ways when Jaylen Brown came out and said what he had to say. You know, Brown publicly fired off on analytics and trolls and hinted that some within the league didn't view him as a starter level guy. Despite being sixth in the MVP voting last season, Brown was Brown was basically telling the league, "I'm not the player your spreadsheet says I am." So Jaylen Brown, as we know, never requested a trade, and then he's having to hear himself in, you know, people may say he's not a an efficient player. He may not be a 1A guy as they said about as was said about Jalen Brunson. He may not be a they don't think he's a 1A guy. They don't think he's a starter. And so at this point Jaylen Brown gets into his being who he is, he speaks out and he's not having it. But in the end, people are going to have their own opinion of who they think you are. So this is just a chance for Jaylen Brown to now he's with the Sixers. This is a fresh start for him, a fresh start for both teams and both players, both taking on different responsibilities now, both on different teams, different roles. And so this is a chance for Jaylen Brown to show that you're wrong about what was being said about him. He has to show that on the court. And then the last point, championships. For the Sixers, if Embiid stays healthy, the Sixers are top 3 in the East immediately. We know Joel Embiid was MVP at once and they were the top seed in the Eastern Conference, but they end up declining. And also this is their most complete roster the Sixers ever had since the 2018-19 era. And then for the Celtics, in conclusion, for the Celtics, still dangerous, but a different team. The only difference is Jayson Tatum is your number one option. They lost that they lost their defensive versatility and transition, but in the end, they gained veteran experience and draft compensation. Like I said before, they can use that to their advantage to get another star if they wanted to. Honestly, I feel like the Sixers won this trade. This puts more weight on the Celtics to see what they are capable of doing, and also it puts some weight on the Sixers. Joel Embiid being is he going to be healthy? Because you already now there's no excuses. You're Jay, Jaylen Brown. You're the player that you need. the upgrade from Paul George. Joel Embiid, a MVP. No excuses this year. You gotta go out there and play, and you gotta make sure you're available. But that is all for today's episode. Once again, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload an episode. I'm Devin, and I'm signing off.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show.